author, expert on the Underground Railroad in our community, Linda Haas. Hi, Linda.
Hi, Bart. Glad to be here.
Yeah, welcome back. Great to see you again. In fact, we just saw each other a couple weeks ago.
That was such an awesome experience to unveil that historical marker.
In Mount Evergreen Cemetery, there's an historical marker, state of Michigan marker, that Linda Haas actually applied for.
Yes, correct. I had a lot of help from the city of Jackson, in particular Kelly Hoover. I just have to give her a lot of credit. She shepherded me through the approval process, but the research was about a year and a half, looking at evidence that's beyond question, getting various approvals, having maps, and a year and a half later I got the good news. Congratulations, it was accepted, and it was a real proud day.
It was surprising to me because I did not know, I guess I didn't think about it, but we do have descendants of both Underground Railroad conductors and...
Yes, I would love to talk about that moment too, because in my research I discovered that a freedom seeker by the name of Emma Patton came here in the mid-1840s. Rather than go on to Canada like so many did, she chose to stay in Jackson. We have records of her. She worked here as a seamstress. She married, she had children, and she died here in Mount Evergreen Cemetery. She was buried. And I was able to discover that her descendants live here today. She has 3 great-great-granddaughters, the Bowles sisters. And when I contacted them with this information, they graciously helped me, supported me, and agreed to be a part of this unveiling ceremony. On the agent side, Charles DeLand was, and his family, helped.
And they're there. Those are the people you're talking about.
Those are the people I'm talking about. That's that wonderful marker right there. Charles DeLand's family helped Emma Nichols and other freedom seekers, and their descendants were at this ceremony to meet each other for the first time, knowing that their ancestors over 100 years ago helped each other. They'd not met until that moment.
Wow. Very emotional day. And
it was.
Yeah.
It was.
And for these folks, you know, they just had lived their life as nobody knew. No one knew their history.
Nobody knew. There was so much history under our nose. That's why I called my book Hidden in Plain Sight. There's history hidden in plain sight, but the people that I write about were also hidden in plain sight. Some of their hiding places were very ingenious. They could be, here we are sitting in chairs. They could be in the crawl space underneath our feet, just inches away. They could be in cupboards. They could be in the boxes and crates of wagons that lumbered through town, right under our noses. They were hidden in plain sight as well. And this book, Hidden in Plain Sight, really looks at the people. It's a personality profile of the agents and the freedom seekers who came here. What were their lives like? Their dramas, their near escapes, their trials and tribulations, the places that they hid, the trails that they followed. It's more immersive because it puts you in their shoes through their trails.
Yeah, your first book was more about the places.
An overview.
Yeah, and we're just yards from some of the places you discovered were Underground Railroad stops.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it was a pleasure to uncover some of these places. One of the places is not far from here, Bucky Harris Park, just west from here. I've applied for a second historical marker, which was approved, and it's going to document the Underground Railroad related activities that took place in that square, which was originally Jacksonburg Public Square. They called it Public Square. It was a bustling commercial district at the intersection of Michigan Ave and North Jackson Street. And there were newspapers there, and there was a courthouse there. And the newspapers were founded by Underground Railroad agents. We didn't know it, but
Really?
They were, yeah. Jackson's first newspaper, the Jacksonburg Sentinel, founded in 1837, was founded by 2 men in particular, William DeLand and Norman Allen, and they were both Underground Railroad agents.
And the DeLand descendant was at that.
Yes, yes.
So we'll have two.
We'll have two
historic markers in that park, because one also is about the
Jacksonburg Public Square, and it talks about the boundaries of the square. But the second historical marker will talk about the significant activities and the people and the Underground Railroad connection to that square. So it's more person-specific than just boundary-specific.
Well, there's, Battle Creek, they really celebrate their Underground Railroad history, but I think it's because they have had people that have done the research.
Yes.
Now we do.
Yes.
We're just as significant a place.
Thank you. We are just as significant, if not more significant. It's
Really?
just that the research has not been out there to make that convincing claim. One of the claims that Jackson has is that we hosted the first anti-slavery newspaper in the state of Michigan. That's a state first. Here in Jackson, in Bucky Harris Park. It was an anti-slavery paper published by William Sullivan, who was an Underground Railroad agent, published in 1838 or 1839, called The American Freeman. The Ann Arbor News originally claimed that Ann Arbor was the birthplace of the first anti-slavery newspaper. They had to print a retraction because it was Jackson, and I have the facts to prove it. The first in the state of Michigan, the anti-slavery paper published in Jackson in Bucky Harris Park.
And publishers were so influential because that was the only media, that was the only means for people getting information. Do you think that was one of the reasons why this community was so embracive of the slaves coming to the north?
I think so. I think that it was. We can't prove that it actually changed opinion, but you can prove that it caused people to talk more about it and to think more about it, and those people who were maybe on the line were pushed over in the anti-slavery camp. Probably a hardcore person isn't going to change their mind, but someone who's on the fence would, and this was a way of disseminating that information very persuasively, because all the early newspapers had that slant, that anti-slavery slant, and they were all founded by Underground Railroad agents, which wasn't known until now.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, you're not done with Mount Evergreen Cemetery, because not only do we have now the historical marker, but you want to do one more thing. We
actually, I'm glad to say that we are accepted in the National Underground Railroad Network to Freedom, and that's a mouthful, so I'll just call it the National Network.
Okay.
And it is a program operated by the National Park Service that honors sites connected to the Underground Railroad from our government. It's the highest level of proof that you can get. It means Jackson's claim is beyond question. And the National Park Service operates 600 sites in 40 states that are connected to the Underground Railroad. And this is Jackson, Michigan's first time of entry onto this list.
That's amazing.
We are now a part of that national list. It's amazing because it could bring tourism into Jackson. We're going to be listed on a national list. The National Parks puts out a list of its participating sites. Jackson will be listed. There's tourists that look for these sites because they want to investigate them. But it also opens us up for grants from the National Park Service if we want to promote anything on the Underground Railroad, national grants. It also just raises our claim to a level of credibility that is on par with any other, Battle Creek, Detroit, Ann Arbor, if not more so.
Well, what's really amazing is that none of this information, none of our history would have been known today if it weren't for you.
And my wonderful partners, the City of Jackson, especially Kelly Hoover, and with the city parks, City Council, the Historical District Commission. I'm so blessed to have worked with so many supportive partners.
Well, I've read your first book, and it's really fascinating, and I think everyone that lives here needs to see them both. This is the second book, and it's called Hidden in Plain Sight, The Underground Railroad in Jackson County. And you have a number of opportunities for people to see and hear more from you because you do a lot of speaking. I do. And I probably give talks to various groups, civics and historical groups, maybe 2 or 3 a month, something like that. I have one coming up at Cascades Baptist Church on the 19th of this month, and another one to the Quilt Guild the 30th of September at the Ellis Sharp Museum. So people can buy my books there. I always bring them. They can get them at the Jackson District Library, all the branches, and I think the Carnegie has 10 books that people can check out. And they can also get them on my publisher's website, booklocker.com. Awesome. Well, thanks for all the work, because
pleasure.
I know it's been exhaustive and it's consumed you.
Labor of love.
As your husband, I know, well, it's consumed him too.
Yes, all true, yes.
Well, thanks for being here today.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
Do you think there'll be a third book?
You never know.
Right.
It's possible.
Well, I bet there will, because Linda already is unearthing new information. Great to see you. Thanks for the work you're doing for our community.
Thank you.
The author of Hidden in Plain Sight, The Underground Railroad in Jackson County, Linda Haas. Up next here on the show,